which is buried in the Sanskrit language, in the Vedic literatures of India, into the English language, and have thus been distributed throughout the entire world for the benefit of everyone in this most difficult age, the age of Kali. Now, many, many millions of years ago, there was one great demon named Hiranyakashipu. Now, modern anthropologists and scientists will say, well, modern man did not exist many millions of years ago. And that is true because the human beings in that time were far superior to modern man now. So in that sense, they are correct. The people lived longer, they were stronger, they were smarter, they had better inclinations. But Hiranyakashipu, he was special. He was a very big demon, and he hated the Lord with a passion. In the old gangster movies of the 1940s and 50s, you dirty rat, you killed my brother. Well, Lord Vishnu had killed his brother in his amazing transcendental space boar incarnation. Hiranyaksha, the brother of Hiranyakashipu, he was plundering the earth for gold and other precious things, and the earth became out of balance and fell from its orbit into the nether regions of the universe. And the Lord Varaha, Lord Boar, picked up the earth with his tusks from the nether regions of the universe and restored it, imbuing the earth planet with this mystic potency to its proper place in the solar system, the floating orbit. And Hiranyaksha challenged the Lord to a fight. Hiranyaksha was a very powerful demon with a big club, and he was always looking for a fight. He was always itching for a fight, and he couldn't really find anyone who was his equal to fight with. But when he encountered Lord Varaha, he said, here's someone I can fight with, someone who's very powerful. So they had a big battle, and Lord Varaha dispatched Hiranyaksha. So ever since then, his brother Hiranyakashipu hated Lord Vishnu. You dirty rat, you killed my brother. So Hiranyakashipu managed to take over the universe, drove the demigods from their positions of management and power in the cosmic order. And he was sitting on the throne of power of the universe. And he had a son named Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj, interestingly enough, was not a great demon like his father, but actually he was a great devotee of the Lord. And when Hiranyakashipu was off performing severe austerities and penances in order to gain power, his pregnant wife was in danger of her life because the demigods came and they said, when this child, the seed of the great demon, is born, then we will have to kill him. Because Hiranyakashipu was feared and hated by all the demigods. So just when that was about to happen, Narada Muni, the great sage and the great devotee of the Lord, appeared on the scene and said, stop. You cannot take this woman and you cannot kill this child. You do not know that within the womb of Hiranyakashipu's wife is a great devotee. So when Narada Muni came and spoke, the demigods were like, okay, hands off. And then he took her to his ashram. And while the child was in the womb, he instructed her in the science of devotional service. So amazingly enough, Prahlad Maharaj, while in the womb of his mother, absorbed all these instructions of Narada Muni, although later his mother forgot them, Prabhupada points out in the purports. So he was a great self-realized soul even before he was born, fully enlightened in spiritual knowledge. So although he's in the family of the greatest of the great demons, he is a wonderful devotee. But Hiranyakashipu did not know that. And so when Prahlad was 5 years old, he was in the school, the Asura Kula, the school of the demons. And there they instructed the students who were the children of the big leading demons in all the demoniac arts and sciences, especially diplomacy, politics, war, envy, power, all such things. So the boys were expected to be learning that. So one time Hiranyakashipu took his son on his lap. So, my dear Prahlad, what is the best thing you have learned from your teachers? And then Prahlad Maharaj spoke these verses. Shravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam padasevanam archanam vandanam dasyam sakyam atmani vedanam iti pungsarpita Vishnau bhaktischain avalakshana kreti bhagavati adha tanmanye ditam uttamam. And that first verse explains the 9 processes of devotional service, or the 9 modes of serving the Lord, beginning with Shravanam, which means hearing. Shravanam Kirtanam. Kirtanam means chanting. Just like we have our big kirtan in front of the deities. That's chanting. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, about Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu. Vishnu Smaranam, remembering the Lord. Archanam, offering worship to the Lord. When we worship the deity with the incense and the ghee lamp and the different articles of worship, that's called Archanam, deity worship, a very interesting and wonderful and beautiful facet of the practice of Krishna consciousness. Archanam Vandanam. Vandanam means offering prayers. Dasyam, becoming the servant. Sakyam, becoming the best friend or accepting the Lord as one's best friend. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, that he's actually the best well-wishing dear friend of every living being, Sarvabhutanam, of all living beings. So, and then finally, Atmani Vedanam, surrendering everything to the Lord, giving one's very self. Atma means the soul or the self. So then Prahlad Maharaj says, these 9 processes of serving the Lord, I consider Tanmanye Ditam Uttamam. Tanmanye, I think, he says, that Ditam Uttamam, this is the highest knowledge. This is the best of learning that anyone can engage in. So, very wise words spoken by Prahlad, although apparently only a 5-year-old child, amazing devotee, self-realized. And Hiranyakashipu was very fierce. And indeed, everyone in the universe was afraid of Hiranyakashipu. When he would just move one of his crooked eyebrows, the demigods and everyone would tremble in fear. Yet Prahlad was fearless. He was not afraid of Hiranyakashipu. He was not afraid of anything, because he was Abhay Charanara fearless at the lotus feet of Krishna, Abhay Charan. When Srila Prabhupada appeared in this world in 1896 in Calcutta, his family name was Day, and his parents gave him the name Abhay Charan Day, one who is fearless at the lotus feet of Krishna. Then later, when he took initiation from his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in 1933, he generally at the time of initiation, one's name is changed, but he just added Aravinda, which means lotus, onto that Abhay Charan. So he became Abhay Charan Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Or later on, he became Swami when he took sannyas, but Abhay Charan Aravinda Das, one of the devotees of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So Prahlad was completely fearless. And he was not afraid of Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu conspired with his associates to try to kill Prahlad Maharaj in various ways. Various types of torture, throwing him in a pit of snakes, throwing him off a cliff. But in every case, that attempt failed. And Hiranyakashipu was perplexed. How come I can't kill him? I just can't kill this boy. And he became very angry at Prahlad, and he said, by what power, what is the power that you have that you're not afraid of me? And what makes you think that you have more power than me? It was hissing like a snake, it's described in the Bhagavatam. And Prahlad told him, the source of your power is also the source of my power, and it's the source of everyone's power and strength. That is the Supreme Lord, Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu again! First, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smarnam. Iti Pung Sarpita Vishnu. Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. He said, you are speaking like a rascal who is about to die. So he pulled out his sword and he was ready to kill his innocent 5-year-old son. What a demon, right? That's one of the definitions of demon. Right there on the spot. And he goes, you're speaking of you getting your power from Vishnu, from God. Where is God? And Prahlad says, oh, he's everywhere. He's smiling. And they were in the palace, and Hiranyakashipu said, oh, yes, is he in this pillar? And he took his sword and he smashed the pillar. And then suddenly, this sound that had never been heard before in the universe, this great cracking sound, issued forth from the pillar, and out from within the pillar sprang the incarnation of the Lord Nrsimhadev. Half man, half lion, like nothing anyone had ever seen or heard of before. And then Lord Nrsimha proceeded to dispatch Hiranyakashipu. And Prahlad wasn't too upset by that, although his father was killed by him. His entrails were ripped out, and Lord Nrsimha wore them as a garland. And the Lord was very pleased with Prahlad, and he asked him, you've rendered such nice service to me. Please ask a boon. Take a boon from me. I'll give you a benediction, whatever you want. And Prahlad said, I don't want anything for myself. But you kindly deliver my father, who had just tried to kill him. So that is the great devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. What a wonderful history. It's a historical narration that appears in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you don't have a set of Srimad Bhagavatams, we advise you to speak to our Kirtaneshwar Prabhu, and he will arrange for you to get a set of the Bhagavatams at a very reasonable price.
Is that one available right now?
There you go. And the Bhagavatam is 12 cantos, a total of 18,000 verses. So it's a vast Puranic work, full of wisdom. So, returning to what Prahlad said, the first thing he said was Shravanam, hearing. So because that's the first thing he mentioned, we take that as the most important item in devotional service, is hearing. And someone would say, well, wait a minute, what about chanting? Chanting Hare Krishna. Well, when you chant Hare Krishna in kirtan with a group of devotees, you are hearing. There's hearing and chanting. When the lead singer sings the Mahamantra, and everyone is hearing. Then when the group responds, then the leader, he stops singing. All kirtan leaders take note. That's when you stop singing. And you hear the response. And there's a reciprocation, and all parties involved are hearing and chanting. So they're concomitant activities. But this hearing, spiritual subject matter, which is called technically in Sanskrit, Krishna Katha. That means the subject matter of Krishna consciousness, of Lord Krishna, his pastimes, his activities, and his philosophy. So there are different types of Krishna Katha. One type of Krishna Katha is the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is spoken about Krishna. And then there's the Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by Krishna. That's Krishna's words. Gita means the song, or that which is spoken or sung by Bhagavan, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, as he establishes and declares and reveals in the Bhagavad Gita. So a loose translation of Bhagavad Gita could be the Song of God, or it is the philosophical treatise that's spoken by the Lord himself. So if you want to hear some authorized knowledge, who better to hear from than the Lord himself? That is very authoritative. He is the most authoritative. And everything he speaks is free from any kind of defects or speculation or limitation that we ordinary conditioned souls have. But mystically and transcendentally, when we repeat the words of the Lord from Bhagavad Gita and repeat the pastimes of the Lord as heard in Srimad Bhagavatam, then those narrations are actually filled with transcendental power. And it is said that those who broadcast these narrations all over the world are the most munificent givers, the great benedictors of human society. So who will not hear these messages of Krishna Katha? Well, according to Bhagavatam, there are two types of people who do not want to hear. One who is a butcher. This is a very horrible occupation, the butcher, slicing up the body, killing animals. It is very sinful activity. Or that can also be interpreted from the Sanskrit to mean one who is atmaha, one who is killing his own self. So how are you killing your own self? I'm not killing my own self. I'm not going to take my life. But killing the spirit or killing the soul means to turn our face away from God. That's called Krishna Bahirmukha. That we turn the face away from God and we ignore him and we ignore his instructions and we try to make our own program of happiness and enjoyment through this body and these senses, which is not, according to the Vedic wisdom, that is not the purpose of the human form of life. So, first of all, we have to understand, who are we or what are we? This is a perennial question amongst intelligent people in human society, particularly amongst young people. Well, why am I here? What is the goal of life? What is the purpose of life? Why am I not completely satisfied by my parents and society with their materialistic goals, which don't seem to satisfy me? Particularly you find that in young people. But one doesn't have to be young. At any stage of life, one can ask these questions. And one can have a midlife crisis where instead of thinking, oh, I have to get a red sports car, one may think, why am I not satisfied with my life? There must be something I'm missing, some goal, some purpose, some inner understanding of my existential reason for being here. And Sanatana Goswami, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, he posed this question to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is an appearance of Krishna, who came only 500 years ago, Lord Krishna having appeared 5,000 years ago. And Sanatana Goswami asked this question to Lord Chaitanya. Although Sanatana Goswami was an extremely learned scholar, he was a master of many scriptures. He spoke 5 or 6 languages and was a scholar in all of them, including Sanskrit, Persian, Urdu, Bengali, etc. Yet he presented himself as not knowing anything. Who am I? And why are the threefold miseries of material existence raining down upon my head? Why am I suffering in this world? Now, Sanatana Goswami, as we can understand, is not alone in suffering in the material world. Actually, everyone is suffering. There's only two classes of person who are not suffering. One is the highly realized devotee of the Lord, the sadhu, and the other is the village idiot. The idiot, he's not suffering because he's out of it. He doesn't even know he's suffering. When I first met the devotees, and they're explaining to me how everyone is suffering in this world, I was like, really? I'm suffering too? Oh, wait a minute, let me think about it. I didn't know that I was suffering. I didn't realize that. It didn't occur to me. It just is the way it is. We're all in this same boat. We all have the same experience as human beings. And then I realized after hearing from the devotees, oh yeah, I'm just suffering like a fool, like an idiot. I don't even realize it. I'm so covered over by the material energy. So that is an intelligent question. Why am I suffering? Lord Chaitanya has said that this life is temporary and full of various kinds of miseries. So why do you waste your time engaging yourself in that way? Better to seek out and worship the Lord of the heart. And this idea is also explained by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Dukkalayam ashashvatam, dukkha doshana darshanam. That dukkha, the miseries, are there, and ashashvatam, the temporary nature of this world, it is harassing us all. And we are an illusion, and we do not know who we are. We're like strangers in a strange land. That's a book by Robert Heinlein. Many of you may have not read, but was very popular in the 70s. Michael Smith, The Man from Mars. But I digress. But we are like that. Or Paradise Lost by Milton. There was a song written by Joni Mitchell called Woodstock. And she sings in there that, in this time in the 60s when the Woodstock Festival took place, there was a time of supposedly spiritual awakening. Mostly it was a time of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but yeah, that was what was passing for a spiritual awakening. But she said, maybe it's the time of year, and maybe it's the time of man, that there's an awakening. And then the line of the song goes, we've got to get ourselves back to the garden, which is a very beautiful line. The spirit soul feels a need to return back to their spiritual origin, which is not this body, not this temporary existence, but the soul is eternal. And that is the real identity of the soul. So when Sanatana Goswami asked Lord Chaitanya, who am I and why am I suffering? And then he went on to say, people think that I am a very learned scholar. And I myself think that also. I believe them. But I cannot tell you who I am and why I'm suffering. Therefore, I am appealing to you. Please enlighten me on this subject matter. So this is the real inquiry of the soul who's looking for answers to the deeper questions, not to the superficial questions. Where can I get the best deal on a new car? Or how can I afford a mortgage? The prices are out of control. And what happened to my government job? It disappeared on me. like this. We were just talking with the Social Security officer the other day, and we're sympathizing with him and hoping that he will keep his job so that he can keep on helping us. But he's a good fellow with a good heart. We appreciate his service to. He's actually rendering devotional service. He's serving and helping devotees in their life. Good fellow. So this answer that Lord Chaitanya has given to Sanatana Goswami, Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnara Nityadas, that the living being, and all of us are living beings within this body, his real identity, Jivera Swarup, Swarup means his real, the nature of his existence, his actual identity, his actual form, is that Krishnara Nityadas. He's an eternal servant of Krishna. And that is the answer to who am I? What is my identity? And then understanding this, then what should I do now that I have this understanding of my real identity? Krishnara Nityadas, you're the eternal servant of Krishna. So we have to engage ourselves in the way that Prahlad Maharaj has instructed. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam. Hear and chant about Krishna, chant Krishna's holy name. And in that way, Vishnu Smaranam, remember the lotus feet of the Lord. And then we can return to our real home, which is not in this material cosmos, but far beyond that, that spiritual abode, which Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. Tad Dhamma Paramam Mama, that supreme abode. There's no sun, there's no moon, there's no electricity, there's no birth, there's no death, there's no rigged elections, there's no demons, there's no rascals, there's no envy, there's no anger. But there, everyone is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and is completely satisfied. And that goes on eternally. It has no end. All right, so we'll stop here. Questions, comments, realizations? Briefly, anyone? Okay, we'll do Omar first.
Thank you for the class. I was wondering what distinguishes one servant of Krishna from another? What makes one unique? Is it like the relationship they have with Krishna?
Everyone is a unique individual and has a unique individual relationship with Krishna, every living being. And that is part of the greatness or the glory of God, is that he can have a completely unique individual relationship with unlimited billions and trillions and quadrillions of living entities. And every one of them is fully satisfied in that relationship. That boggles the mind. When you do the math, you're a scientific man. Do the math, because 3/4 of the living entities in existence are not in this material world. And in this material world, there are unlimited, uncountable numbers of living entities. And so the numbers just boggle the mind. It's incomprehensible. Yet the Lord is so perfect and so powerful and so potent that he has an individual relationship with everyone, including you and you and you. And the way to discover that relationship and to reawaken that relationship is through the chanting of the holy names of God. It's the magic path, and it works. It's guaranteed, certified by the Lord himself. And if you don't believe it, then give it a try, and then you will see. You will discover something that you did not know before, that you did not realize before. You have already discovered. But anyone who hasn't discovered can by chanting. And did you want to add something? All right, thank you, good question. So now we'll proceed to the devotional service of hearing and chanting the holy names of God. And then I'll see you on the other side where we have your plates of prasadam, delicious prasadam, ready for you to partake to your full satisfaction. Hare Krishna.